What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday, and welcome to another edition of Giants Collective, the season finale week of Giants Collective. As always, I'm joined by Adriana down there, Anthony's over there, Chris is down there, and I am the bad diggity dizzle. You have to forgive my energy level. I am very under the weather today. It is not because the Giants lost. I'm sorry, the Giants won, so it's not like they make me sick. That's not why. I don't feel good, although they have made me sick all year, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that they have made sick this entire season. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. Do us a favor, hit the thumbs up. It helps. Hit the subscribe button. We did reach 6,600 subscribers. We appreciate that very much. We're on our way to 10K, which is awesome. We'll have a lot of exciting stuff to talk about in the offseason. You can also check us out on TikTok and Instagram. You can check us out wherever you get your podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, and Apple. If you listen to us on Apple, if you could leave a 5-star review, that would be great. Also, big shout outs to the sponsors, Sleeper and SeatGeek. And of course, the first portion of Giants Collective is brought to you by our friends at SeatGeek. Check it out. You just got to use the promo code Giants Collective 10. Click that link in the description. You get 10% off your tickets. And again, you don't need to, there is a Giants home game. You don't need to use it for Giants tickets, but if you want to go watch the Giants play the Cowboys in week 17 because you're a sadomasochist, you get 10% off. So enjoy that. A big shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring the season on Giants Collective. As always, in week 17 trips us up. We were 2-13 last year. Beat the Colts in a meaningless game. Ended up with what the hell pick did we end up with last year? 3.
Third, yeah.
Right now we'd be picking 2. If there was any team tanking harder than the Giants, it was the Raiders, sitting out Max Crosby, who was pissed about it, sitting out Brock Bowers, and giving Gentry the ball about 8 times and never even trying to block for the kid. That's what happened in the game. Adriana, we always start with the lady first. What was your takeaway from the game against the Raiders, and how do you feel about the Giants losing the first pick of the draft?
I'm upset that they lost the first pick in the draft because it's deja vu. The exact same thing happened almost exactly a year ago to the day against the Colts. And look, the Raiders are a bad football team. I feel a little bit like they kind of gave up after they so blatantly tanked and benched Max Crosby. I've watched some Raiders games. I haven't watched all of them, but I saw them keep it semi-close against the Texans, and it was like night and day. They're completely different football teams from one week to another, which I guess is kind of like watching the Giants too. But I mean, I'm glad that they had a good day. I'm happy Wan'Dale Robinson gets 1,000 yards. Brian Burns, 16.5 sacks. Like, there's a lot of, I think, good things that come out of it for the players. Mike Kafka gets his first win. I'm watching the post-game video and whatever. And it's great to see the players excited. It's great that they got a win. It's awful that it happens in week 17 when it doesn't mean anything. And I know it means something to the players. It doesn't mean anything to us as the fans and to the long-term success of the franchise. So I was disappointed that they won, but as soon as the game started and they scored that first touchdown, I was like, here we go. And then Deonte Banks, when that happened, I was like, pigs are flying. That's it. We might actually put up 40 plus points on this team the way this is going because everyone decided to play football today. My biggest takeaway is that Tay Banks actually does know how to tackle. He just has refused to do it for the last 2 years, which is insane.
Maybe they have something with him as a kickoff returner, though, because even before that return, he's actually done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
That. Anthony, what was your takeaway from the game against the Raiders, and how did you feel about them losing the first pick in the draft?
My main takeaway is that the Raiders are a really, really bad football team. Like, we thought the Giants were bad, but that Raiders team is just hot garbage. I see why they were tanking for the first overall pick. Geno Smith is clearly let the game pass him by. He's done. I mean, he can't be the quarterback next year. He won't be the quarterback next year. They'll take Fernando Mendoza first overall. They'll probably, and I've seen some Giants fans say next week there's still a chance that the Giants pick first overall because it's a battered Chiefs team. Maybe the Raiders pull off the upset. Did we watch the same game this past weekend, guys? The Raiders are not winning a football game next weekend, no matter who they're playing and how injured that team is. So it's disappointing that the Giants won't be picking first overall, but this is kind of something that I saw coming, something that I expected. this is a movie I've watched 100 times. It's like Goodfellas. So not completely shocked by it. I knew the ending of this one. But you know what? Picking second overall ain't so bad either. Seems like the Giants are locked into second overall as long as they lose this upcoming Sunday, which I expect that they will. And they'll have a top 2 pick. Could still trade down from that. Could still take a star prospect with that. So, you know, what I'm more worried about is the fact that it sounds like ownership is buying back in on Joe Shane after a crappy win over a crappy Raiders team. And I think that's bizarre, but, you know, I'm sure we'll discuss that some more later on in the show.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing. Chris, you and I did the game together. I think we knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But what was your takeaway from the game?
Yeah, it's why I'm not like super disappointed, Baddog, from the game, because I expected the Giants to win that game. The Raiders are as bad as the Giants are. The Raiders are worse, and they were trying to lose the game. I'm happy for the players, right? Like Wan'Dale Robinson got 1,000 yards. Happy for him. He's had a great year. Abdul Carter, 4th straight week where he's been the best player on the defense. That's cause for optimism for next year, right? That's a guy that we all had really high hopes for. He had another really good game. Brian Burns. So there were good individual performances. Jackson Dart played well, albeit against the Raiders, but he still played well, which was good to hopefully, you know, he built some confidence there. They used his legs a lot more in the red zone. Deontay Banks, maybe we have a kick returner there at least for a year before we cut his ass. But yeah, it was just funny that him and Bobby Okereke, the 2 guys that have been arguably the 2 most disappointing players on the outside of Dexter Lawrence this year, were the 2 biggest contributors to why the Giants won that game. So it's just, you know, it is what it is. But we still have the second pick, like Anthony said. Maybe, hopefully, if you're a Giants fan, and we may win this week. I'm not going to rule anything out. I think Dallas will win. They're starting Dak, but you never know. But if we end up with the number 2 pick, hopefully, what's his name out of Oregon? Dante Moore.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe he has a really good combine and he impresses teams and the Giants are able to trade down that way, but they're not going to get near what they would have gotten had they had the 1st overall pick. I think we could all agree with that, but it is what it is. The Giants, at the end of the day, they have Jackson Dart. If you believe in Jackson Dart and you think he's a potential franchise quarterback and you get the right coach in here, as we've seen around the league, it could turn real fast with both the Chicago Bears and the New England Patriots. So to me, the most important thing this offseason was never getting the number 1 overall pick. I wanted it, trust me. But the most important thing is hitting on the head coach. And to Anthony's point about Joe Shane, if they bring Joe Shane back, which I'm sure, like Anthony said, I'm sure we'll talk about throughout this show. If they bring Joe Shane back, the Raiders game should have nothing to do with it. I have to be under the impression if they bring Shane back, they already knew they were bringing him back after they fired Brian Dable, and they were never going to change their mind. The Raiders, like Anthony said, is by far the worst team in the league. They were trying to lose the game. So that performance and that win, that should have no bearing on whether Joe Shane keeps his job or not.
Yeah, Chris, you say this a lot, and it's true. You can't control what happens. You just got to deal with the outcome. Again, it sucks because we would have got a haul for the 1st overall pick. You can't tell these guys to lose, especially Jackson Dart. He's a rookie. It was nice to see him bounce back after a terrible game against Minnesota. He kind of needed it for his confidence. You mentioned they used his legs a lot more. I think he had 50 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns, which obviously is a big part of his game. Wan'Dale, he just seemed like he threw to Wan'Dale every time because that's his only reliable receiver. Very happy that he went over 1,000 yards. I think Wan'Dale, Anthony, maybe you tweeted out that he's the shortest guy ever to get 1,000 yards. I think you tweeted that out today, which is crazy.
Yeah, that was a stat that I found. I couldn't believe that. 5'8" he's listed. Some people responded to it saying, well, Tyreek Hill is 5'8", but Tyreek Hill is actually listed officially by the NFL as 5'10". So of all the receivers in history that have been listed as 5'8", Wan'Dale's the only one with 1,000 yards. The other shortest is Wes Welker, was listed as 5'9". He's a 1,000-yard receiver. So Wan'Dale made NFL history. Pretty cool.
I was going over Giants history, and not that I'm comparing them to these receivers, but when you look at the list of Giants receivers since 2000 that have eclipsed 1,000 yards, and he did it in 16 games, so you can't say it's because of the extra game. It's Odell Beckham, it's Amani Toomer, it's Plaxico Burress, it's Hakeem Nicks, it's Victor Cruz, it's Steve Smith for that 1 year where he had the big year, and Malik Neighbors, and that's it, and Wan'Dale Robinson. So impressive year for him, no doubt about it, especially when you factor in that he had no help outside of it. So happy for Wan'Dale. I don't think he's coming back because I think there's going to be a team that's willing to pay him a lot of money, and I don't think it'll be the Giants.
Chiefs or Commanders are going to give him the bag, I would imagine. But yeah, I have him. I mean, listen, again, at the end of the day, picking number 2 is not awful because Cleveland won, so that certainly helped us out with that. But it's good to see some guys. I mean, some guys had really good years. Juanale had a really good year. Brian Burns, again, just absolutely dominant, 16.5 sacks. I mean, if he gets a half sack or more, I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember what Leonard Marshall had the 1 year. Strahan had a couple of years where he had over 18 sacks, I think. Obviously, he had the 1 year where he had 22 and a half or whatever it was. LT had 20 and a half. But obviously, guys don't really reach that 18 sack plateau. Again, the only guy that really got, I could be wrong about this. I think the only guys that have had 17 or more sacks is Lawrence Taylor and Michael Strahan. That's pretty damn selective company. And yeah, we'll segue into this. Abdul Carter is just a totally different player, without question. So, Anthony, I mean, you take a look at Abdul Carter. All year we've been talking about how he's been getting pressures, and it's just not. Eventually, they're going to turn into sacks. He had the issues, the off the field issues, disciplinary actions were taken where he was not playing in the first quarter. He was late. He was lazy. All of a sudden, I don't know if it's because Lawrence Taylor said something to him. And I don't know if that was Lawrence Taylor or if it coincides with Bowen getting fired. This and Bullen using him in different aspects. This is a totally different player. This is the guy that we thought we were getting from Penn State when we drafted him 3rd overall.
It is. I think that the numbers are showing up better now that he's getting sacks, tackles for loss, and things like that. But even if you're looking at his cumulative stats throughout the year, he's got, I think, 61 or 62 total pressures, which is about what Micah Parsons had in his rookie season. So I know pressures are not everything. Pressures are only half of the story. You want to get sacks, of course. But pressures can be impactful. They can be important. And I do think it demonstrates that on a down-to-down basis throughout this season, Abdul Carter has been playing better than the numbers suggested. And now he's getting those numbers. And you mentioned all the different factors that took place over the last few weeks, the firing of Bowen, the benching, LT speaking to him. I know Burns spoke to him. I know Dexter Lawrence spoke to him as well. I think what it really highlighted for me was that this potential and ability was always there for Abdul Carter, but the illness of losing affected him. And that was always my biggest fear with all these Giants rookies this season, Dart included. I've stressed this many times. Scadaboo's obviously got injured early in the season, so he's kind of been detached from it. But all of these young, promising rookies, the last thing that I want to see happen to them is them to get indoctrinated in this culture of losing. That's why I called for mid-season firings of Dable, of Bowen. The Bowen one clearly just happened way too late. Yeah. But that's what it seems to be, is that there is an apathy that takes over this locker room every October, basically, because the team is basically out of contention by October. And that just kills the momentum that these players have. And it causes them not to try as hard or maybe just not be as effective one way or another. And I think that was proven with Abdul Carter. He finally got, a spark back from the firings and the discussions that were taking place in the discipline. And now all of a sudden he's the player that he really could have and should have been the entire season. And so I think it highlights that, the cultural thing, but it also definitely highlights that this is a roster that this season was certainly held back by coaching or a lack thereof. This was a poorly coached team that definitely had more talent than what we saw throughout the first half of the year. And so I do think next season you get the right head coach in here. He makes some good coordinator hirings. I could see a lot of these guys taking big steps forward. Abdul Carter, I think, is only scratching the surface. I think Burns can be even better. He's already got 16.5 sacks this year. I think he could be even better on a down-to-down basis with a better defensive coordinator. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I still don't like watching Mike Kafka's offense. I know that the Giants' offense was better this past week. I just think across the board, this Giants team has more talent than the coaching has allowed us to see throughout the season consistently.
You mentioned the rookie is like getting indoctrinated into losing culture. You could say the same thing about Malik Neighbors last year. Obviously, he was very frustrated, and he said it's not the quarterback. I remember it's not the quarterback. And then he would say, you got to ask Coach Daves about that. You got to ask Coach Daves about that. So, yeah, I mean, we as fans say, yeah, we want the number 1 overall pick. But like you said, if you're a player, you're happy for the players that they broke whatever it was, a 9-game losing streak, and that they did get the feeling of winning again, and that they did play well as a team, and they won very convincingly. I did think it was funny, though, and I kind of joked about it on Twitter when Kafka was giving out the game balls or whatever, that, Okereke had that interception inside the 10. He caught that one, but he didn't catch the game ball. I just thought that was funny. I'm like, of course he dropped that one. He drops a little toss, but he picked the Geno Smith ass off.
He gave a game ball to like everybody. And then Dart ended up giving his game ball back to Kafka. But
yeah, well, I mean, Kafka should get the game ball. I think eventually he may be a head coach. Listen, man, I don't think Mike Kafka is the head coach of this team. And again, I'm like Anthony. I don't really like his play calling, but that's a tough situation. You take over a really poor team, a team that's kind of checked out. I mean, it's almost impossible for him to come in here and change us. He had all those injuries. You weren't winning anyway. It's not like he was going to come in here and make a difference. It's not like you could just change all the plays and the playbook and everything. It's not like he had much of an opportunity to do any of it. And, it is what it is. But Chris, you and I did the Penn State Notre Dame game last year. And you and I were in love with Abdul Carter. What do you think about his play the last month?
Yeah, as you were talking, two other guys I just wanted to bring up that I don't know if I want to use the word encourage, but I think I wanted to make note of. We may finally have a kicker.
Yes.
He's finally making some kicks, so that's good, right? And yes. I feel a lot more confident with him kicking the football. And I forgot what else I was going to say, but regardless, you got me excited about Abdul Carter, so let's talk about him. I think there's several reasons that you could point to, and I've seen a lot of people bring it up on Twitter as to why Abdul Carter has had this sudden, jolt. And like Anthony said, we've seen glimpses of it throughout the year, and his talent is off the charts. Like you said, Bad, that when we watched that Notre Dame game, our jaws hit the floor. I went into that game expecting to look at the Penn State quarterback because I thought the Giants may be looking at a quarterback, and within 10 minutes of that game, I said, my eyes are on Abdul Carter for the rest of the tonight. He was by far the best player on that field in that game. And over the last 4 weeks, he's been, in my opinion, at least the best player in our defense by far, outside of perhaps Brian Burns. But he's been incredible the last 4 weeks. It's been exactly what we expected. Of course, obviously, you could point to the defensive coordinator change. Shane Bowen, Charlie Bullen. The thing that I've noticed since Bullen's taken over, and maybe it's just because he's been more impactful, but I feel like they've been using, and I don't know if the stats back this up. This is just the vibe that I get when I'm watching the game. I feel like they've been using Abdul Carter a lot more as a blitzer up the middle, and I feel like he's been very successful doing that. I think 2 of his 4 sacks at least have come from blitzes up the middle, but he's also been successful both on the right and left side. So that's kind of what we envisioned, Bad Dog. I compared him to Micah Parsons as a prospect because of that. That's kind of what Parsons did in his rookie year as well, and what he's continued to do since he's been in the NFL. So I'm really encouraged by him. You could point to the fact that Kavon's getting less reps. I've seen people bring that up on Twitter, is the fact that Kavon's not playing, giving Abdul Carter more of an opportunity to get those numbers. Perhaps you could point to the shitty schedule that he's played the last 3 or 4 weeks, and maybe he's taken advantage of that a bit. But I truly do think we're seeing the player that I expected to see day one this year on a more consistent basis, and I think it's going to continue to translate into next year. I think he's going to have a jump similar to that of JPP in his second year. I really do. I think he's going to have a big year next year, Abdul Carter, and I think he's going to be the best player in our defense next year.
Adriana, how do you feel about Abdul Carter's play over the last month? Obviously, night and day between where he was about 5 weeks ago and where he is now.
I went to a local sports card store by me today because I had some cards that I wanted to see if they would buy. And as I was there, I was like, hey, any chance you have an Abdul Carter card? Immediately bought it. It has a little spot to get a signature. So now I'm like, I got to get Abdul Carter to sign it somehow. I love him. I'm so happy that he's playing well. I think for me, it comes down to a couple things. Number one, Kavon being out. When Kavon was playing, Abdul Carter was not getting nearly as many reps as he's been getting recently. So I think that's a big part of it. The second thing is obviously the coaching. Charlie Bullen knows these guys. He was the outside linebackers coach. He has a great relationship with them. He knows what they're good at. He knows how to utilize their strengths and things like that. So I know there was a lot of talk at the time, like why Charlie Bullen over anyone else? And, he obviously knows how to do something right. And we can make the argument that anyone would have been better than Shane Bowen, but I think Charlie Bullen is doing a good job, especially with a rookie like Abdul Carter and getting him to the place where he is being more productive and he's coming in early and watching more film and blah, blah, blah. And the third thing is obviously Abdul Carter stepping up to the plate and making the changes that needed to be made. I think a big part of that falls on coaching and it falls on Brian Daboll. I remember listening to Carl Banks last year, and I was upset at the fact that I was watching Malik Neighbors week after week getting illegal shift penalties, and he had 5 of them in one season, which is unacceptable. And Dable never did anything about it. And we all know like Dable's issues and whatever, but I think that's a perfect example of the exact same thing happening with Abdul Carter just a year later. And it's not the penalties thing, which of course he has the 2 neutral zone infractions, whatever. But
one definitely wasn't. He didn't line up offsides and then an interception. I didn't think he did.
Well, he said the ref told him the first time the ref told him he was fine. Yeah, so stupid. But I think that was a big part of it, is that human nature, you get away with what you can get away with. And when your coach is not pushing you and you're the coach is letting things slide and you can get away with it. Like, I think sometimes these guys are just young and they do it. And it's the same thing with Malik Neighbors last year. And when Carl Banks is on his podcast saying, you cannot be afraid to coach your best players, something is not right there. So I think, I don't know how strict Charlie Bullen is. I know Kafka's talked about accountability, but whatever Charlie Bullen is doing, it's A, a hell of a lot better than Shane Bowen, and B, he's got some sort of accountability, motivation, or whatever message that's really getting through to Abdul Carter. And I think it's like when you lose weight, right? If you don't feel it at first, but if you stick with it and you start to lose a couple pounds, or you start to see some muscles in the gym, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to keep going because I see the changes. He's seeing the productive on the field. So I'm sure that's motivating him to keep going with the process that he's doing. But I think the biggest thing when we talk about the coaching is that they never had a real plan for Abdul Carter. And that's exactly what Carl Banks has said too. They drafted him. They had Kavon. They had Brian Burns, and Shane Bowen, who's Shane Bowen and doesn't know how to run a correct defense, never knew what to do with Abdul Carter. I think it's the exact same thing that happened with Isaiah Simmons last year. So I wish they made the change from Shane Bowen earlier. I know we all wish that, but I think it's great that just from a couple weeks of Charlie Bullen, we are seeing a version of what Abdul Carter can be. And like Chris said, like, this is really just the beginning. I think in year 2, he's really going to take that big jump, which is something to be excited about. Because when I think about Joe Shane probably coming back and having the 2nd pick, I'm like, here we fucking go again.
I can't believe we're saying that he's probably coming back. But I agree with you at this point.
So upset by it.
All signs point to that he likely is coming back. I'm surprised at this point, to be honest.
You mentioned the weight loss thing. Not only do you see results, other people start noticing, and hey, you look great, or hey, this and that. And the same thing, I think Abdul Carter is now getting positive reinforcement. But these guys are on Twitter. I mean, we saw Abdul Carter. He's been on there a couple of times. And they obviously, listen, man, I'm not going to say they watch YouTube. Maybe they do, but they definitely on Twitter. I mean, they hear and see things. So when all of a sudden you're getting positive reinforcement, I do think that's like it motivates you to do even better because it feels good, man. So it's hit a dopamine. It's like, all right, man, I can do this. I was thinking sometimes when rookies come into the NFL, because they've been the best player their entire life at the levels they are, that maybe they feel they don't need to work as hard because they've always been the best and they haven't had to put in, all that work. And now he realizes that he has to. Whatever he has done, he needs to keep doing it. And I say the same thing, Chris and Adriana, thinking about an entire off season going in with this work ethic and hopefully the correct coaches and coordinators to get him where he needs to be, he could have a huge season. Now, I'm going to ask this, and any of you can answer. Does that mean Kavon Thibodeaux is expendable?
I don't want to use the term expendable because I like Kavon and I want him to be in an ideal scenario where cap space didn't exist. I want Kavon Thibodeaux to be with this team long term. That being said, do I think Kavon is going to be with this team past next year? Probably not, if I'm being honest. I think the Giants will probably look to trade him. Well, it depends. I don't know if Shane's going to be back here or not. So it's tough to answer that question right now because obviously the probability of him being extended goes up if Shane comes back as the general manager and he remains on as the general manager. But right now, if I had to guess, I don't think Kavon's with the Giants long term because I think Kavon is going to try to get a big deal, much like I think Wando's going to try to get a big deal. And the Giants are going to say, we think he's a good player, but we have Carter, we have Burns, we have Dex, and we could find a replacement in the draft. That's where I'm leaning what will happen 2 years from now. Of course, we'll be back with the team next year.
Yeah,
I don't think Kavon's played enough. He's been hurt quite a bit. He missed time last season. He missed time this season. He missed time during his rookie season. And the Giants picked up his fifth-year option, which I think was the right decision. He had 11.5 sacks in 2023, and he's been an ascending player. I think he's made progress in his game in different ways each year. I thought he looked like a much better run defender early this season, but even still, that fifth-year option is about $15 million fully guaranteed. That right there, you get that off your books, trade that for a draft pick. Now you can bring back Wan'Dale Robinson, who's proven to be reliable, durable, and has proven that he's going to get paid. So if you want to afford a guy like him, or if you want to afford Illuminor, whoever it is, the Giants have several key free agents about to hit the market. You might have to move on from Kavon Thibodeaux. So even if you don't think he's expendable, he still just might not be worth the price. And I guess expendable would be the word, because you're only comfortable moving on from him because Abdul Carter looks so good and you have so much hope and confidence in Carter to continue to develop. So unfortunately, I don't see a way for Thibodeaux to remain on this roster long term either.
Andre, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I like Thibodeaux. I think he's been a good player, but like Anthony said, the injury history is obviously something to worry about. And I just think you're not going to spend that much money on a player when you already spent the money on Burns and Abdul Carter, and you're seeing what they both offer. And you need more help in the run. And if you have the opportunity to get a defensive lineman, a defensive tackle, linebacker, someone who's going to be able to help with that, that's where they need to prioritize. And I went through all of Joe Shane's draft picks today, and just looking at like the linebackers and the defensive linemen and the fact that the run game is so bad. I'm like, you can't pay Kavon for what he brings to the run. It's good, but it's not enough. And he's not amazing at the edge position, not compared to what Burns and I think Carter have given us. So I would see what he's capable of this year. I don't know. Maybe they think about trading him around draft time or what. I'd like to keep him at least maybe partially through the season, but I don't see them keeping him long term, not at this rate, especially if he's looking at like $15 to $20 million a year. We don't have unlimited cap space.
Provided he's healthy next year, I think he's going to get more than that. The edge rushers get paid a ridiculous amount of money. But yeah, I agree. I don't think they can bring him back.
Yeah, it's what I said, because people are saying, Abdul Carter's playing much better because he's getting the reps. And, if there's only so many reps to go around. So why would you pay Kavon Thibodeaux long term if it's going to take reps away from the guy you picked third overall, especially when, like Anthony said, you get that money off, you can afford to bring back one of these guys that's made a massive impact, like Illuminor, because while he hasn't been like an elite right tackle, the fact he's been average or above average is way better than we've had over there. And you see how much better the run offense is all season. Now, Dart has something to do with that, but I mean, it's just the line looks way better. I mean, head and shoulders than it's been in previous seasons, and Illuminor has a lot to do with that. He even put on Twitter, I don't know if he said it was 1,000 snaps, whatever it was the first time in his career that he reached 1,000 snaps. So again, he's been around. He's a leader. I wouldn't give him like a long-term deal, maybe a couple years, because I think he is like 31 or something. So I don't know how much, how long of a contract you want to give him, but what he is. But they also have Marcus Bowen. Maybe they want to take a look at him at right tackle. So
you just reminded me, Baddog, that was the other player I wanted to mention. When I said I wanted to mention two players, I wanted to mention him. He had one of my favorite plays of that game where I forgot, I think it was Dart was running, or maybe it was a screen pass. He was like 15 yards up on the field and he pancaked the guy. So he's another guy I just wanted to mention. I thought he played relatively well. Not that I'm claiming to be some offensive line, film guy, but I thought both played relatively well, which was encouraging.
Yeah. And the hustle on that play, I was like, damn, he moves pretty good.
Yeah.
No, obviously Jackson Dart, he had a bad game against Minnesota to the point. One thing I love, the best thing about winning the game on Sunday, we don't need to hear this fucking Fernando Mendoza shit anymore.
Enough.
That can stop. Yeah.
If Moore declares for the draft, then we're going to hear it about him too. Because if we have the second pick, Dante Moore is the Oregon quarterback.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe after the playoffs, I don't know.
What do we have? Was it Danny Cannell saying the Giants look at a quarterback, and Jackson Dart's dad said eat a fat one? I thought that shit was hilarious.
That was amazing.
I thought that was awesome, because that's exactly the way I felt. Fucking Danny Cannell, garbage. I know all about that freaking defense carried the Giants in the 90s, not Danny Cannell. Chris, what did you feel about Jackson Dart's game? overall. Certainly looked better than he did the previous 2 weeks. It's pretty much since Kafka became the head coach. This is kind of the Jackson Dart that we saw at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that his legs were back, right? They really hadn't used his legs that much in the red zone. I feel like that was like the go-to play in this game. I'm not going to go, nuts about this game because the Raiders suck and the Raiders were trying to lose, but Jackson Dart played really well. It was good to see that he got a bounce back game, gets a win, hopefully build some confidence from it. And we, like you said, we could shut up with the Mendoza bullshit talk. Yeah. And now Jackson, we knew before this, whether they won or lost that game, Dart's going to be the starting quarterback next year. But, now the focus is clear. He's the guy going forward, at least I think for at least the next 2 years. And then, we'll see after that. But yeah, I thought he played well. And I'm really excited to see what he could do next year when we get hopefully a better coach in here, a Malik Neighbors back. Potentially another wide receiver on the other side, which I still think they'll address.
Scatterboo comes back.
Scatterboo coming back. So yeah, I'm really excited about Jackson Dart. As I've said last week, I'm not at the point where I'm like, I see some people on Twitter saying he's a top 7, 8, 9 quarterback. I'm not there yet, but I'm definitely at a point where I'm like, I want to see a lot more of this kid, and I think he potentially could be a franchise quarterback. And yeah, it was good to see him have a bounce back performance after getting shit on the last couple of weeks by some of the fans.
Yeah, man, he definitely has proven he can play at this level. Adriana, what did you think about his performance?
I was happy because I felt like it was a big confidence booster for him. And I think with these players, they need to have those types of games. He looked like himself, the way that he was scrambling, the fact that he rushed for multiple touchdowns. It felt like he was getting his stride again. And, we talked about, I think, that post that he liked that was saying that the Giants were kind of holding him back. So I think we got to see, again, the quarterback that we all loved. And we're like, where has this guy been? Now, like Chris said, it's against the Raiders, who actually are middle of the pack defense, not as bad as some of the other teams that I think the Giants have gone against. But I was just happy to feel like he bounced back because, if he had a bad game against the Raiders, then it would have been like, Mendoza all over again. So I'm not worried about Jackson Dart in the long run. I would like to see him work on some things this offseason. He has mentioned the fact that he needs to work on his footwork, and that's something I'd like to see him do. But I feel like he did a really good job of not taking unnecessary hits. Yeah. He got down on the ground pretty well, made smart decisions with the ball. There were a couple balls that were tipped or batted down. Maybe with a better defense, those get intercepted. But I feel like he hit Juanale a lot of the time in stride. He just made good decisions with the ball. And one of the things that I think he's gotten better with over the last couple of weeks is reading the defenses. I know that everyone is like, oh, yeah, it's such a bad game against Minnesota. Brian Flores threw everything at him and he was not flustered. He was able to audible. And if 3 catches go differently, he's 10 for 13 for 80 plus yards. And then, it's less of a conversation. I think that game was more about Mike Kafka. And I'm sure everyone watched the Vikings versus Lions and watched Jared fucking Goff turn the ball over 5 times. So after that game, I'm like, listen, maybe Mike Kafka wasn't 100% in the wrong with that game plan. Didn't love it, but maybe he was just trying to protect his quarterback. So anyway, I just like that Jackson Dart was getting back to it. I think that is the way that Jackson Dart has to play if we want to win football games moving forward, whether, it's against the Raiders or it's against the Eagles. Like, you got to let Dart be who he is, and just, he has to keep reiterating that he's just got to be smart with the ball in every way, shape, and form. It's getting down so you don't, fumble and, not turning it over. So,
and you brought up, I should have brought that point up. You brought up a really good point because we and a lot of Giants fans have been harping on that over the last 3-4 weeks. He's got to do a better job. He's got to be smarter with the football when he runs. He had, and we both mentioned it, Baddog, throughout the game as we're watching it. He had 2 or 3 plays where he took 1 or 2 less yards to avoid contact on the sidelines, and he used his legs a lot in this game. He still didn't take away from his strength. As a matter of fact, I would argue his legs were his biggest strength in this game. But he was much smarter with the football when he did run. That to me was really encouraging from Jackson Dart, and I hope that continues.
Anthony, what did you think about Dart's performance?
Well, Chris said his legs were his biggest strength in this game. I feel like they've been arguably his biggest strength all season, and that's the argument that I was making over the last several weeks. You're nuking the playbook and nerfing your rookie quarterback who is making such progress and development by taking those plays out of the playbook. So I've been banging the table Put those plays back in. Let him run the ball. This offense is going to look broken, and he's going to have his confidence shattered if you don't let him play his game. You drafted him based on what he did in college, and what he did in college, he was a great running quarterback. He was a dual threat quarterback, and the Giants need to play him to his strengths and not try and fit a square peg into a round hole like they did with other guys that we complain about, like Evan Neal and Deontay Banks and so many other players whose development they harmed by trying to fit into roles that doesn't fit their playing style. So I'm happy that they brought the quarterback design runs back. I said it actually on the last live stream. I want to see the quarterback draw in the red zone, and boom, we got it, and he scored a touchdown on it. But he also did do a better job of protecting himself, and that's really important. Again, like all of you said, it was the Raiders defense. It was a Raiders team that had basically rolled over and died and allowed the Giants to step right over them. So I'm not going to put way too much stock into this game, but it was nice to see Jackson Dart return to look like the player that we got accustomed to earlier this season. And I think that it's a confidence boosting game for him. And I think it's a game that, for him was necessary to silence some of the noise. Not that the noise was legitimate in my mind. I don't care about the Mendoza stuff. I know the Giants have a potential franchise quarterback in Jackson Dart. I can't imagine. I mean, they've done some stupid things. I can't imagine they'd be stupid enough to, move on from Dart after one season. But even still, the chatter was out there, and I think it was important for Dart to just silence it.
Especially if Shane's coming back, there's no way they're moving on from Jackson Dart.
I mean, I would have to agree, but
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there were some weird rumors and reports and speculation out there, but again, I think it was just for Dart. They even asked him about it in the post game. Did you hear about the chatter? And he was like, "I'm not focused on that. I'm going to be here a long time." And he was speaking like he got his swagger back. And again, I just think that was important for him to have a game like this, remind everybody that he has special talent, and also remind himself after being trapped in a little bit of a bottle for a few weeks, 33 passing yards against the Vikings. I'm sure he's never had a performance that poor in his entire life of playing football. So having to bounce back in the end zone himself a couple times, I think it was important for Dart's confidence.
Yeah. I say this all the time about like preseason or whatever, when they're like, "Oh, it's just preseason." I'm like, that may be true, but you don't want to see you guys play like shit. And while I can say it's just the Raiders and they're obviously tanking, it would have looked much poorer had he had another bad game. So the fact that he did look like the quarterback from earlier in the year, where he was using his legs very effectively, ran for 2 touchdowns. He doesn't have a lot to throw to. I mean, like I said, he targeted Juanale a ton because Juanale's the one guy that seems to be able to catch the football. Now, Bellinger got crushed, so I'm not going to be too hard on him for a drop of the one pass. But, maybe he did target Theo. If he did, I don't remember.
I was about to say, I don't remember one Theo targeting that.
Hodgins a couple times.
Theo wasn't active.
Oh, that's why. Okay, yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, I do think interceptions off Theo's hands.
I do think that. I do think. Whatchamacallit? I do think that. What the hell was I going to say? I don't remember. I'm off of it tonight. Anyway, it must not have been that important. That brings us to the close of the first portion of Giants Collective, which of course is brought to us by our friends at SeatGeek. Let's hear from them. 80 seconds back after this with your questions. What's going on, guys and gals? You looking for a fun activity? You want to get out of the house? You need something to do? Are you looking for a great gift idea? Well, if so, look no farther than the sponsor of Giants Collective, which is SeatGeek. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There's more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. Giants season is underway. And say you want to check out Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders at MetLife Stadium? Well, it's easy. Just go to SeatGeek, scroll around, look for the tickets that you want, and SeatGeek's going to have your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. Look for the green dots. That's good. The red dots, well, it's not so good. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And of course, I have a code for you guys. You can use the code Giants Collective for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with the promo code Giants Collective. Make sure you click that link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek, for sponsoring Giants Collective, and let's go Giants! Let's go Giants. Let's go and get to the end of the freaking year that we ain't got to worry about.
Almost there.
One more of these games, and we can finally put this season to bed. I think Joe Shane is something we should talk about in the next show. because obviously that's going to take up some time.
Well, that's the whole.
Yeah, that's
relax the next couple of days. That's what everybody's going to be.
Yep. So especially getting near the end of the year, the rumors out there, we'll definitely have to make it a point to talk about him going forward from here. Larry, thank you so much. He says, Anthony, excellent video today about Wan'Dale. What does the panel think? Wan'Dale, Illuminor, Flott. Who do you resign and who do you let walk? Who do you replace in the draft given the cap space? John, I like your jacket.
There you go.
Thank you. It's from Old Navy.
There you go.
It's very warm.
I didn't get a chance to see Anthony's video, so I'm assuming that's what the topic was.
Yeah, it was discussing those 3 free agents and trying to kind of rank who's the most important to re-sign, but also taking into account how expensive all 3 of them are going to be. Is it even possible to re-sign all of them? And then the conversation with Alex kind of evolved into if you can only pick 2 of them, because it feels like the Giants probably can't re-sign all 3. So if you could only pick 2 of them, who would those 2 be?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of discussed this before, but first I'll state what I think my breaking point would be for each one of them. If I was a general manager, we're just fans at the end of the day. Like Baddog said, for Illuminor, it would have to be a short deal because he's 31 years old. I'm not giving him a 4 or 5 year deal, and I don't think he should expect that. But I'd be willing to overpay him a little bit on a per year average, right, from what other teams may be willing to pay. So I don't know what the market is for a guy like Illuminor, but if it's like 18, 19, I may be willing to go 21, 22 if it's a 3 year deal with an easy 2 year out. So that's kind of where I'd be with Illuminor. Wan'Dale, for me, it's 15 to 16, no more. As much as I love Wan'Dale, as much as I think he's been a really good Giant, especially this year, he's remained healthy. He's replaceable at the end of the day. He's a slot receiver. You could find a guy like him. Not that he may not be as good as Wan'Dale, because Wan'Dale's been good, but you could replace him. So I'm not going higher than 15 or 16 for him. And I unfortunately think, like Baddog said, there's a lot of teams with cap space out there that need receivers. I think he's probably going to get paid by someone probably closer to 18, 19 a year. And if that's the case, I think the Giants need to steer clear of that. And then Cordell Flott, it's such an important position. We're so thin there. We know as Giants fans how hard it's been to find long-term answers at that position over the course of the team's history since I've been watching the team. And he's played really well. He's earned a contract, and that's an important position. So, again, I'm not super up on what the going rate is for a corner, but I would imagine it's got to be at least in the ballpark of a Wan'Dale Robinson. It probably starts in that $15 to $16 million range. It might even go higher for a guy like Flott, but I think you have to bring him back. I think we're so thin at that position. He's young. And I think with a better defensive coordinator, he's only going to get better. So if I had to prioritize it, as I've said, I think one for me is Illuminor because you have to protect the young quarterback. Dart's the future of this team. You have to get him on the right foot next year. 2 is Flott, but it's a close 2 because I think he's really important to bring back. And Wan'Dale is a distant 3rd. I'd love to have all 3 back, but that's how I would rank it.
Yeah, I'm with Chris. To me, Illuminor number 1 and Flott number 2. I think those positions are some of the most important on this football team. And I think the reality is that they're the hardest to replicate and replace. We have Marcus Bowe, but we all know that Andrew Thomas probably is not playing all 17 games next year. And if Marcus Bowe can step in and be the swing tackle, that's what we need him for. They're going to have to get a guard. I don't think they're going to re-sign Ben Roten, but to have steady Illuminor on that right side I think is going to be so important. So I'm definitely willing to pay him. I'm with Chris, probably like a 2 to 3 year deal, maybe an out after year 2. It's annoying to me that they have not done any of this or even had conversations about this beforehand. So, but he's a guy that is number 1 to me, and Flott number 2, same thing. He's starting to really hit his stride, and he's very young. He's 24, 25. Yeah. So I think he's going to hit his stride even more moving forward, especially when he's got good coaching. And that's a position, again, at corner that we need as much help as we can get at. And we don't know who's going to be available in free agency. Just because they sign someone in free agency doesn't mean it's going to work. Like Paulson Adebo, The hope is that with a new scheme, a new defensive coordinator, someone like Paulson Adebo is going to be better. I hope so. But I just think we're not in a position to pay a wide receiver over a cornerback or an offensive lineman. And this is the benefit for me about having the first or second overall pick. If we can trade out of 2 to 5 or 7 and get a linebacker, corner, go best player available on defense there, you can get 2 wide receivers in the draft. You can get, I mean, we're probably not lucky enough that we're getting a Puka Nacua in round 5, but you can still get a talented wide receiver in one of those later rounds. And Wandale's a good football player. I like Wan'Dale Robinson. I think it's amazing he got 1,000 yards this year. But he made NFL history by being the smallest wide receiver to ever do that. And he's been here for 4 years. And look, we're going to have Malik Neighbors back next year. You know, I know we have Darius Slayton, which everyone's so thrilled to have him back. But we have those 2 guys, and I just think I would prefer a wide receiver, whoever they bring in the draft, someone to have slot and outside capability. And Wan'Dale kind of has that, but because of his size, he's really limited on some of those outside routes. You can put Malik Neighbors in the slot, and then you can get a wide receiver in the draft who you can put on the outside, and you can rotate those guys. I would much rather have a wide receiver who is more versatile, and I just don't think that you get that from Wan'Dale, partially because of his size, and I don't think that it's a good idea to pay him $17 million a year for that. If you're going to pay a wide receiver $17 million a year, like, do you have someone who can give you more than that?
To me, it's kind of similar. Not that he's had as good as a year as him, but it's kind of similar to Steve Smith when he was with the Giants. He had that one really big year. He was kind of a limited receiver in terms of, you know, he had a little, you know, he didn't have the biggest height to him. He was more of a traditional slot receiver, a third down receiver. We let him go to the Eagles, and he fell off a cliff. And then we ended up replacing him with Victor Cruz. So I just think Wan'Dale's replaceable. I'm not trying to shit on him. I think he's been great. And for the right price, I'd love to have him back. Like if we didn't sign Darius Slayton, bring back Wan'Dale Robinson for his $15-16 million a year. But unfortunately, because of that signing, I think it's going to be hard to bring him back.
That price tag is going to be so much higher than 15.
I agree. I think it's going to be 18, 19.
I think it's going to be 20. I think it could even go up to 20 to 22, because when you look at the contracts that these wide receivers have signed, so the one that he circles, according to Jordan Rannon, Wan'Dale Robinson in his camp circled the Khalil Shakir contract, which was $13 million, can go all the way up to $15 million per season with incentives. Well, Khalil Shakir never had a 1,000-yard receiving season, never even came close by the time he signed that deal. Wan'Dale now has a 1,000-yard receiving season, so you're probably talking about putting him in the class with Christian Kirk when Christian Kirk reset the market for slot receiver contracts back in 2022, and he made $18 million. And fun fact on Christian Kirk, he never had a 1,000-yard receiving season. So you're talking about a 1,000-yard receiver, you're probably talking about Jacoby Myers, and Jacoby Myers just signed with the Jaguars at $20 million. And Wan'Dale Robinson is 7 years younger than Jacoby Myers. So I don't see how he gets any less than $20 million on the open market. I think he can go all the way up to 22. And honestly, I used to be completely out on re-signing Wan'Dale. I think he's so good this year, I probably would try and sign him back. I don't know if I'd go up to 20. I get the argument that he's replaceable in many ways, but I think he's more than a slot receiver. He's played in the slot less this season than he has in any seasons past. So he's playing more on the outside. And when you consider the fact that he's had to emerge as the number one receiver on this team, it's very impressive. And I think that he is ascending. He's gotten so much better every single year. You're talking about a guy who's 24, is going to be in his prime for the next 4 years. If you sign him to that contract, $20 million per season sounds like a lot right now. By the end of that 4 years, that might be an absolute bargain. Now, there's a lot of other factors at play. And of course, you know, it's way more important to get an offensive tackle signed than a cornerback signed. So you probably have to prioritize Illuminor and Flott, but it'll be really tough to watch Wan'Dale walk because he's a really damn good player.
I think
I'm not happy about it.
Like, you know, like you guys said, I think he's the easiest of the 3 positions to replace. And unfortunately, that might happen. I mean, we're not in a great cap situation. There are teams that need a receiver like that. Like, talk about the Commanders, you know, they're an older team. McLaurin's older, Debo's older. They're going to get Jaden Daniels back. They have a shitload of cap space. I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson can really do a team like the Commanders a lot of good. And maybe Wan'Dale does come back. Maybe he wants to be here. And he says, you know what, instead of taking $20 million a year, I will sign for 18. With the Giants, the one thing that would suck about losing Wan'Dale Robinson is it's obvious that he's become Jackson Dart's favorite target. Now, maybe next year it's Malik Neighbors. We don't know, but he only played a half with Malik Neighbors. So they don't really have that rapport. But you've definitely seen Wan'Dale Robinson and Jackson Dart have really good chemistry. So it would suck to lose that for your, which will be your second-year quarterback next year. But again, we've seen how bad the corner play is here. We've seen how bad the right tackle play has been here for years. And, it's going to be easier to replace Wan'Dale in those other two positions. I would love to sign all three of them, but, I don't know, man. I'm not a GM. I don't know who the hell the GM is going to be. But if it's Joe Shane, who knows, man, because, he drafted him. So he also drafted Cordell Flott. So those are his guys. Maybe he looks at Aluminum and goes, I didn't draft that guy. I brought him in, and I'll use Marcus Bowe. I mean, who knows? Should have mentioned before, the Q&A portion, Giants Collective is brought to you by our friends at Sleeper. Check out Sleeper, guys and girls. It is the fastest growing app out there. Over 10 million people use it. They have daily fantasy contests, college football, college basketball, NBA, and so much more. 2 great promotions going right now. All you got to do is click the link in the description, enter the promo code HMA on your first deposit to get a 100% match deposit bonus up to $100. And if you don't have a Sleeper account, you want to try it out for free, they got you covered there too. All you got to do is click our link in the description, open a brand new Sleeper account, they give you $20 for free. No deposit, no credit card, no debit card, nothing's required. All you got to do is use our link and open a brand new account. Jason, thank you. Says maybe I'm on an island, but I was so happy to see Banks return that for a touchdown. Seeing the bench mob him was fun. Hopefully this sparks him again.
I wasn't upset about it. I just thought it was funny that he was the one that made the play.
Yeah, that was pretty surprising to me. He's been really good as a returner. I think that's the best thing that he's been at. I've given up on Tay Banks. It's great that he scored that touchdown. I was annoyed by it because I was like, great, now we're like really going to win this football game. Yeah. But it's good for him. It's good for the players to play well. I've given up on him and his immaturity and his attitude problems and his 2 years of bad play, his afraidness or lack of willingness, whatever you want to call it, to tackle anyone, to make hits, to take on contact. He's just been so bad. I'm so over him, and I can't wait for the Giants to get rid of him. But I'm glad that he not only that was actually the best game I think that I've ever seen from Tay Banks, aside from the touchdown, the pass deflection that he had on 3rd and goal. I thought I saw a ghost. I was like, I'm 99% sure I've never seen Tay Banks do this since he's been with the Giants. And then he also had he had like a couple really good plays and very nice tackles. And I was like, wow, Tay Banks actually does know how to tackle. Because I could have sworn for the last 2 years, he just, has amnesia and doesn't know how to tackle since he never does it. But something happened that he decided he's ready to play football now, just in time.
The Raiders happen. The Raiders happen.
The Raiders make everyone look good, even Tay Banks.
That's right. Jason, thank you. Says a few more positive. Darius Alexander's flash. Yeah, he has definitely stepped up his game. Abdul, a great. Ben Saul's a competent. Shit, Saul's hasn't missed a kick.
Mm-hmm.
Banks said good reps at corner. That return was fire.
I'm afraid that these, how last year was all like the 2024 draft saved Joe Shane. Now it's going to be the 2024 and the 2025 draft save Joe Shane because those guys are doing well. But
maybe the 22 draft because that draft is looking better and better.
Yeah, it's developed.
Yeah. Well, only some of them. But.
Remember I said that going into the year too. It was like all these guys have been popping off in OTAs and camp. Even Belton was the star of the spring, and I was like, well, he's looking better. Wan'Dale's looking better. Flott's looking better. Like all these guys are ready to take a step forward. Even Bellinger, I mean, I think he in some ways did. If these guys all do take a step forward this year, the 2022 class is now going to look like maybe Shane's best, and obviously Thibodeaux, but he got hurt. So, but
to be fair,
Darius Alexander.
To be fair, Anthony, it's also had the longest time to breathe. So, like,
yeah, of course,
with the 24 and 25 draft look 2 or 3 years from now. But I agree, this year the 22 draft has taken the biggest step up for sure.
For sure, it looks like a good class now in retrospect. But Darius Alexander, I'm really happy to see him coming on. I thought fans were way too harsh on him, way too critical of him in the preseason because he had. I don't even know where that came from. Like he's a 3rd round rookie out of Toledo. I never understood why people were freaking out about Darius Alexander not dominating people in the preseason. Like he's looked good, and I knew it was going to be a progress with him. He's developed quite well, and I think he'll be a starter next year.
Yeah.
Mike, thank you, buddy. I think the Raiders win on Sunday because Geno is better than the start of the Chiefs. The Chiefs O-line is straight ass. Olabuki's not winning the game for the Chiefs.
Actually,
Geno
Geno is definitely not better than that Chiefs quarterback, but Kenny Pickett is, and that's who they're starting because Geno Smith left the game early and they already with an injury, and they already said he's not playing week 18. So I have a little bit of faith in Kenny Pickett.
I'm going to tell you why I don't think the Chiefs are going to lose that game. I think it's Travis Kelce's last game. And I think the Chiefs are going to do everything they can to make him go out with a win. And we all saw what the Raiders looked like, and I don't think the Raiders are trying to win the game. So I think I'd be shocked if the Chiefs lose that game, if I'm being honest.
We'll see. Never know in a division game, but I will also be shocked if the Raiders win. Sam, thank you, buddy. He says, what is the likelihood we keep Brandon Brown this offseason, or does he go on Shane's coattails?
Well, I think Shane's staying, so I think Brandon Brown's probably staying. But also Brandon Brown will probably interview for other general manager jobs. He was a finalist each of the last 2 years, I think. So I don't think he'll get one. Yeah. No, but the thing with the GM jobs, though, is it's a little bit different because it's not – if you're an assistant GM, it's really about how well you interview because there aren't a lot of tangible statistics that you can use to evaluate an assistant GM. And apparently he interviews really well, and he's gone to those – he was in that general manager accelerator program. So he's been getting a lot of exposure.
In terms of like when I've seen him, he seems like an intelligent guy. I just feel, Anthony, that usually, almost always, when teams hire a new GM, they hire it from a guy that comes from a strong organization. I think he will get a job down the line. I just don't think it'll be this year.
Keep in mind, he was with the Philadelphia Eagles working under Howie Roseman before he was with the Giants.
Yeah. That's true.
Whatever. Jason, thank you, man. He says, I never thought Joe was getting fired. He was a rookie GM who's catching a stride now. Now we can focus on head coach. You can win with this roster, in my opinion. You got to get the coaches right. I just feel
but who hired the last set of coaches? That's why, that's my big thing against Joe Schoen when it comes to the coaching staff is that he brought in his buddy that he spent all this time with that he knew so well. He brought him in and trusted him to make those decisions, and it blew up in everyone's face. So I'm like, how is Joe Schoen is going to pick a stranger now? I'm really worried that it's going to be Joe Brady because they always bring in people from Buffalo. It's someone that they have ties with. God forbid you step outside the organization, and that's what he's going to do because he got burned by Dable, who's someone that he knew well. You think he's going to go pick a stranger, someone from the Rams or the Lions, which are teams that I would like to be poaching people from? No, it's going to be from the fucking Bills who can't get out of their own goddamn way.
And trust me, I'm going to be the biggest. When they bring Shane back, I'm going to be supporting Shane. I'm going to try to make sense of all the moves he makes. That's just the type of fan I am. And I'm going to be hoping and praying that he does the right things. And I'm going to give him an opportunity with whatever head coach they bring in. But what stride, Jason, are you talking about that the New York Giants have hit? They're picking top 6 in the draft for 3 straight years now. 3 straight years, they're going to be picking top 6. 2 straight years, they're going to be more than likely picking top 3. So what are we talking about? What stride are they hitting? They're hitting a stride of shit the last 3 years. And the same thing that I said about Brian Dable, I challenge anybody in the chat, do your research, look it up. Tell me a general manager in the history of the NFL that has kept his job 4 years in after having 3 straight years where he was picking top 6 in the draft.
They fired Dave Gettleman, who had basically the same record after 4 years. He got fired. But let's keep Shane because he didn't fuck up the cap.
So I think it's going to be unprecedented if they keep him for a 5th year. But I'm going to hope I do, like Baddog says, I think there's some good things about Shane. But overall, the team's not in a place where he should be brought back with the New York Giants, in my opinion. I think they need to rip it up.
Yeah, I do too. I think they just got to start fresh. Andrew, thank you. Says John Mara being sick is the only reason Shane's back.
I agree.
That might have something to do with it.
I think so.
Dirt McGurk. Maybe we draft a better player like Andrew Thomas. When we obviously beat Washington, didn't end up with Chase Young. We ended up with Andrew Thomas. Things happen for a reason. Last year we didn't pick first. We ended up with Jackson Dart, not Cam Ward. We also ended up with Abdul Carter. So that seems to have worked out. So maybe this will work out too. The difference is we had a quarterback going into this year, and obviously there's going to be another team that needs one. But if you're picking second overall, you're not going to get the haul you would for first overall, but shit, you're still going to get something if somebody wants to come up and get a quarterback.
Here's my argument against that, though, Dirt. To me, and it is what it is. We have the second pick. We're still in a good position. I'm not flipping out. They won the game, whatever. But to me, it's not the same scenario as it was with Chase Young and Andrew Thomas. For me, you were going to get the same player at 1 that you were going to get at 4 or 5 if you traded out. The value was getting the first pick so you would be able to trade back and get a ton of draft capital because the Giants aren't taking a quarterback. So that was, to me, the whole value of having that first overall pick. You're likely going to get the same player at 1 if you were to stay there that you would get if you traded back. Only you would get potentially at least multiple first-round picks along with it. So that's why I don't think it's comparable to the Andrew Thomas and Chase Young scenario.
Yeah, it's true. All right, it's a much different scenario than it was a few years ago.
Yeah.
Sam, thank you again, buddy. He says, for the first time in a very long time, the Giants did not play down to their opponents. That's true.
The one time you wanted them to.
That game was never in question. It was never in question. Maybe you thought when they made it 20-10 before Banks' return, maybe, but the Giants dominated that game all the way through. Larry, thank you, brother. Dart is the true and legit Vanilla Vic.
He's got the aura.
Great runner.
Yeah, I like Dart, man.
He's not as good as Vic as a runner, but I like him.
Not many were.
No, nobody was. But I like.
He's got 9 rushing touchdowns this season. That's a franchise record for quarterbacks for the New York Giants. So very impressive.
And I think that's more than any of the rookie running backs too. Like RJ Harvey has 7.
Genty have 9.
Genty, does he have 9?
I don't think he does. The ironic thing is the best thing about Dart, because we talked about it, and Anthony mentioned it last show, his ability inside the 10. Like, we've always had a hard time scoring inside the red zone. When you got a guy that can utilize his legs like that, it makes it much more difficult to stop teams from scoring. So you saw it this week again. He started using his legs. He rushed for 2 touchdowns. It's obviously a major weapon of his, and it definitely keeps defenses honest because they can run the ball, they can run with Dart, they can RPO, they can play action. They can do a lot of things down there because of his ability to be mobile.
And imagine that with Neighbors, Baddog. Imagine that when Neighbors back, and we think they're probably going to bring in another big-time receiver along with it.
Also, one last fun fact on Dart. His 9 rushing touchdowns ties Michael Vick's single-season career high. So he really is the Vanilla Vic.
I mean, he's got the rushing touchdowns. I'm just, I'm not knocking the guy. I'm saying he's not as good as a runner as the greatest rusher.
He's just a fun fact.
Maybe, the only guy that you can maybe argue Bad Dog is probably Cunningham, right? Like, Cunningham
was insane. Way ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Randall was way ahead of his time. One of the very few Eagles that I actually liked.
Yeah. Very 1,000-yard rusher at one point.
Or Lamar.
Dart's a long way.
Yeah, Lamar's one of the
Lamar's
best.
the best. Lamar's the best. Kaepernick was really good too.
Josh Allen's pretty damn good too.
He's great.
Different type runner, but he's more like that Cam Newton, like I'm going to run your ass over type runner. Yeah.
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 Way better than Cam Newton though.
Yeah.
Josh Allen is overall. Jason, thank you again. He says, remember when some fans were mad that we didn't tank enough for Chase Young? We know how that turned out. It's not where you pick, but who you pick.
Yeah, you can make that argument they should have tanked harder in the year that Drake May was coming out. Maybe Drake May, I mean, he's probably league MVP. So, I mean, you can make the argument both ways. It's true. You got to – it's who you pick. It's not where you pick. I get that. But I don't know. I mean, you can make the argument either way.
And every draft's different. Like you said, Anthony, like having a second or third pick in the draft 2 years ago when you had those unbelievable quarterback prospects is different than having the second overall pick when Chase Young was the best. But it's just every draft is different year to year. So, yeah, like you said, it's a year to year. The argument may make more sense to tank than others. This year, maybe not as strong as like that Drake May year, for example.
Yeah, without question. The Drake May, that was insane. And I always like when people blame DeVito for that, like, the defense didn't have 13 turnovers in those 3 games. That's why we won those games. You had 6 turnovers against Washington. That's a big reason why they won those games. Jason, thank you again, brother. Appreciate you. He says the cap is a myth. Dart and Juanale have a nice connection going. Jermaine Illuminor is a solid right tackle. Flaws improved. Keep these guys. Dart is on a cheap deal. I hope so.
You'd have to do a lot of cap maneuvering, though. I mean, you'd have to probably trade away Kavon. You'd probably have to restructure Thomas. Yeah, probably Okereke's got to go. Got to restructure Thomas. Got to restructure Burns. Got to restructure Lawrence or extend at least one of those guys. Got to cut a lot of players. And then you still probably have to use void deals. And backloading the contracts, you would love to do that. But at the same time, we keep saying we want to backload these contracts so we can fit them under. But we also say we want an out after 2-3 years in some of these deals. You can't do both because if you backload the contract, you're not going to get that out. So you got to front load it.
I think it's player to player. Every scenario is different. Like a guy like Andrew Thomas, you don't mind backloading because you know he's a guy that if he could stay on the field is going to be here for 10 years. So
my point being, the cap is not entirely a myth.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
You got to be careful with the cap.
But now is the time, Anthony. Once the gets hopefully better. Now is the time to be aggressive with backloads because Dart's still on that rookie deal. You want to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
I can't understand why, like this to me too is why the GM is so important. And I think when it comes to the Giants case, it's not just the GM because we seem to be one of the only teams who over the last decade has not had over $100 million in cap space. The Patriots have done it multiple times. The Bears have done it. The Eagles, not a single day in their life have ever had an issue with the cap. And I was thinking about this and I was like, why don't we give more grief? Which Kevin Abrams is about to catch some strays, but like, why aren't we giving him more grief? He's been the capologist through all this. He agreed to Dave Gettleman's bullshit. And now again, we have a quarterback on a rookie deal and we're going into 5 years of Joe Shane. Why don't we have $100 million in cap space when we have a god awful football team? Like I don't.
My argument to that, I get what you're saying, but my argument to that, I actually, and I would actually like to do a video on this and really break down teams that have had $100 million in space over the last 4 or 5, 6 years. But the reason those teams have that much cap space is because they have nobody worth keeping. Like in most instances, at least in my opinion, I think you kind of want to be in the middle when it comes to cap. You don't want to have no cap space to be a negative cap space, but I feel like when you have that much cap space, like $120 million, that means you wouldn't have players worth retaining, like an Andrew Thomas, like a Dexter Lawrence. So that I would prefer to be more in the middle with cap space.
I know. I don't disagree with you, but I'm also like, you look at the Bears who with that $100 million, they've turned it around in almost 2 years, and the Patriots, the same thing. So, if we just had 1 year of like $100 million, maybe we could have turned it around at some point. Maybe we'll get there.
Maybe someday.
I mean, also, if we just hit on our draft picks, it's not only about the cap space, right? If we hit on some of our draft picks, we wouldn't care about the cap space because we'd have good football players.
I think he has hit on. Well, I think he's hit on quite a few, honestly, and that was a big reason. My proponent for keeping him earlier in the year was I felt like he had gotten better at his job. I felt like he was on an inclined trajectory. And again, if they bring him back, I'm not going to fit. I'm not a Joe Shane hater, but I just think when you fire all your coaches, you got to get rid of him too. And I've said this on Twitter and I've said it on YouTube. And again, we'll talk about this next show. You need to extend him, man. If you're bringing him back, there's no way he comes back on a 1 year deal. You're not
bringing him back on a 1 year deal. If you do that, all the good coaching candidates are going to run for the hills. So
exactly, there's no way you're doing that.
Yeah.
So you're either firing him or you're extending him. There's no lame duck GM. That'd be the worst thing. Well, of course, the Giants are fucking stupid. So that is the type of shit they do.
That's what I'm afraid of. Like, just fire him. Wow. Because you have to, there's no in between. You have to extend him, and he's got the same record as Dave Gettleman. He should be fired. Like, end of discussion. We've been losing for 4 years, 8 years, 10 years at this point. Like, someone fucking do something different.
Yeah, 3 wins back-to-back years isn't a great review of a. It's not something you want to put on your resume.
And this job's never going to be more attractive, which is why I think it makes all the sense in the world to fire Joe Shane right now because of where we're picking in the draft. Dart's only 1 year into his deal. You have Abdul Carter who's only 1 year into his deal.
You're my neighbors.
You have a pretty healthy cap situation over the next couple of years. You don't know what Joe Shane's going to do next year if you bring him back knowing his job's on the line to try to maximize Jackson Dart. What if the team bombs again? Then the team, and maybe you're picking 9 or 10, and the job's not nearly as attractive as it was. So I think it's a stupid decision. I think it's a stupid, and I was more in your boat 5 or 6 weeks ago, Bad Dog, and I think you're with us now too. But I was more in there where I'm like, I understand if they keep Shane. It could make sense to me. But as the year is prolonged, I've been more and more that I don't see any sense of keeping Joe Shane for all the things that we've stated. It makes no sense.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Evan Daggy says, do you guys think it would be true the Giants don't want Shane, don't want to fire Shane because they don't want to go through the GM search again, especially with Mara's health?
That's a bullshit excuse.
Bullshit excuse, but that
might be the reason.
Quarterback,
but it's a bullshit excuse.
This is whether the quarterback, the 2025 draft class, and the cap maybe. Oh, and his he upgraded everything. So now we're in the world of 2025 because we use technology in the building. That's going to be their reasoning.
I don't want to seem insensitive. Like I feel horrible that John Mara has cancer, and I want him to have a speedy recovery. But you cannot use that as an excuse not to try to make this organization better. So that should
somebody else is going to have to take over for him because if he's sick, I mean, obviously,
they're going to consultant like Anthony.
Right. Yeah, you're going to need somebody else to do it eventually. So that's not a legitimate excuse at all. Yeah. I agree. Again, this portion of the Q&A is brought to you by our friends at Sleeper. They have great promotions going on Sleeper. Let's hear from them 30 seconds back after this for the rest of your questions.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using code HMA. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
That's right. Not only that, on top of the 100% match deposit bonus, if you don't have a Sleeper account, you want to try it out, all you got to do is click our link in the description, open a brand new Sleeper account, and give you $20 to play with for nothing. You don't need to make a deposit. You don't need a credit card or debit card, nothing. You just need to open an account using our link, get $20. Terms and conditions apply. Have fun. Score up to 1,000 times cash and test your sports knowledge at Sleeper. Sublight, thank you, buddy. Says, love you guys. Hey, do you think Kafka is from Romulus and Vulcan? I'm not a Star Trek guy, but I think I know that's what Vulcan is, right?
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say Star Wars.
Yeah, I'm not keen on either one of them. But I'm pretty sure Vulcan is Spock, right? I'm pretty sure it's Spock.
He kind of looks like I'm not a Star Trek guy either, but I think it's Spock's the bald character, right? With the eyebrows that are kind of like, oh no.
Oh yes, but the ears. Spock had the ears.
Yeah. So he's got the same eyebrows, I think, as Spock. So I could see that. I could see that.
He's got some weapons. Those are weapons. Chris, I want to talk. I got some pretty bushy eyebrows myself, but they're not pointed out like that. I'm Italian. What can I tell you? You see, I'm a very freaking hairy guy. Chris B, thank you. Says not gonna get the best head coach on with it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll talk more about that next show, but I totally agree. You there's no in between, like Adriana said. You fire him or you extend him. You don't let him go in as a lame duck GM. No way, no how does that happen. Jason, thank you again. Do you give John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan more credit for 49ers success? Coaching matters in the NFL. John Lynch had an egregious draft, but Kyle covers. It's definitely more Kyle Shanahan.
I mean, John Lynch has had some great drafts too, if we're being honest. But
he also gave up a lot for Trey Lance.
That was a miss, yeah.
But they got lucky because they got Brock Purdy.
I mean, they got Fred Warner in like the 5th round, didn't they? Or the 3rd or 4th round. They got Nick Bosa's obviously a great pick. Debo Samuel was a good pick. Brandon Ayuk was a good pick.
Purdy's
irrelevant. So
he's probably top 10 quarterback in the league.
Yeah, so I think they both deserve a lot of credit.
Signed Trent Williams too.
He hired Shanahan. He's the one that makes that decision. So
both of them deserve a lot of credit.
Yeah,
that's why you're successful when you have a successful GM. That's what makes teams successful year in and year out.
Also in good coaching, because how many players have the Niners lost to injuries and they're not out there? They still have 11 wins.
Coach of the year.
He could never do
Coach
that.
of the year this year. What he's done.
Oh yeah.
With all the injuries. Yeah.
Without question. The Rams are falling on hard times here, man. I don't know what the
I
hell
was looking at the playoff seeding. Like, I don't know who to pick, Bad Dog. It's like one of those years where I'm like, who the hell's going to win the Super Bowl? I have no idea. It's like,
I was going to pick the Rams, and then I'm watching last night, and I'm like,
they look terrible. So
I'm going to tell you, I am tempted, even with all the injuries, to pick the 49ers. I am tempted to pick them.
It could be. They could be, man.
That Niners-Bears game was awesome.
Great game.
Yeah, that was like a Big 12 game. That back and forth shit. I love Caleb. I don't care what anybody says.
He's awesome.
Freaking like Caleb. Jason says also people kill Joe for keeping Daboll, but won't mention Daboll when coaching in 2022. That gave him a leash. Daboll was a hot name in 2021. Yeah, Daboll did a really good job with the players he had. I feel like they simplified things for Daniel Jones, but again, if you want to give credit to somebody, a lot of that roster was Dave Gettleman, and they had Saquon, so that helped a lot. It helped alleviate a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones that they could hand the ball to Saquon. And Wink's defense wasn't great, but very opportunistic where they forced turnovers. But yeah, I think that Daboll did get a leash because he did have that. There was the first playoff game we'd won since we won the Super Bowl. So I think it did, but I also believe that's the worst thing that could have happened to this organization was winning too quickly. I wish it went the other way. I wish we won 3 games, 6 games, and then this year we were looking at 9. That would have been nice. But instead, we've gone the complete opposite direction.
Yeah.
One can only hope it turns around next year. Jason, thank you again, man. I really appreciate you supporting this show. What's our cap room in 2027? Does anybody know?
They have 112 million in cap space, but you also have to account for the fact that they're going to use at least 40 to 50 million of that this offseason. So, I mean,
you can't look at cap space 2-3 years in the future for that reason.
You just can't.
Yeah, you extend players, rework contracts. Yeah.
But what I will say is that 2023 draft class is so bad that they probably won't have a lot of extensions to sign next offseason. So they should have a good amount of spending money for free agents in 2027, theoretically, but even still.
Which is not a good thing, because you would have rather had the good draft.
Right. And at the same time, again, I mean, if you want to sign players this offseason, the way that gets done, and the more likely outcome here is that Joe Shane, if he is the general manager, he spends money this offseason and he uses 2027 money to do that because he needs wins next year. Otherwise, he's not going to have the job here. So, and that's obviously the problem. That's what Jerry Reese did in 2016, I believe it was, spent all that money.
But I'm going to tell you what,
Anthony, from the future. So,
and I agree that Shane will do it to prolong his job, but it's the right thing to do because Dart's year 2 on the rookie salary. You have to try to take advantage of the cap at this point to try to maximize him in that rookie window. Am I wrong on that? You have to do it. When is there an appropriate time to do that?
And he's probably going to get extended, so he'll be here through 2027 anyway. If he fucks up the cap space, he's going to be the one to deal with it.
Yeah. I don't know. I refuse to believe that this is going to happen. This feels like a bad dream. I just hope that they come to their senses on Monday and they fire the guy. I can't. Like, the more we talk about it, the more asinine it sounds. You're going to extend this guy? I mean, seriously? They won 3 games this year. They won 3 games last year.
Yep.
I know it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but that's better than keeping him here for a year, which is stupid. They should just, like I said, you wipe it clean.
If they bring him back for a year and they don't extend him, just bring Kafka back and be done with it. Like, just bring him back together, let him suck next year, and blow it up at that point.
You know what I think might happen, and I'll shout out to Alex for this one. We were recording Fireside Giants, and he reminded me last offseason a very similar situation happened in Jacksonville. The Jaguars wanted to sign Liam Cohen. He said, I will not join this team unless you fire the general manager. The next day they fired the general manager. They hired Liam Cohen. So we talk about no head coach wanting to join a lame duck GM. We're probably right. But if the Giants get the head coach that they want, he might have the ability to fire the GM.
I'm misremembering this, but last offseason, wasn't there reports that came out that Dable shopped around, Mara shopped around and saw if there was some interest in coaches from around the league. And when he saw that there wasn't, he said, I'll stick with Dable. Wasn't that a thing?
I do believe that was a thing, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it's still here with the general manager. Who knows?
I think he probably checked in with the top candidates. I don't think he checked in with all the candidates, but he checked in with like the Vrabels. Vrabel knew he wanted to go to New England, guys like that. He probably checked in to see if Tomlin was going to shake free, those top elite candidates. I think that's kind of what the report was indicating. But all those top guys weren't interested in leaving the situation to go to the Giants. So, but we'll see. Maybe this offseason the top guys do want to go here, but maybe they'll have the chance to fire Shane. Who knows?
Well, that's why the offseason is going to be exciting on Giants Collective. A lot to talk about for sure. Sam, thank you. I want a head coach who can pick a good staff and make sure they do their jobs. I don't want a rah-rah guy. The Giants absolutely need coach. You got a young team. You need to get the most out of these guys. You got to develop them properly. We talked about it ad nauseum all season that we feel like they do have some good talent here. They are very poor at situational football, and the coaching really has kind of stunted these guys outside of maybe Jackson Dart, although we saw Kafka kind of fucked him up 3 games. You talk about how Shane Bowen had no plan for Abdul Carter. Like, how do you not have a plan for that guy? Like, what is your job if you have no plan for the best pass rusher, maybe the best player in the draft? Like, how do you not? If I'm a defensive coordinator and I know that guy's coming in, man, I am writing down all kinds of plays and I'm licking my chops, saying I can't wait to use this guy, man, all over the field. I have a weapon, but no, not the Giants. So.
And
Sam, we got to get the coaching right.
That point, Sam, is exactly why I think Anthony, I think, is more on Shula for number 1, but he's very open to a guy like McCarthy. I think that point is why I think us and a lot of Giants fans are all aboard getting an experienced head coach, a guy that's done it before, a guy that knows how to organize a staff, a guy that knows how to prepare for training camp. Those things, right? That goes a long way when it comes to a head coach. You bring in a guy that's never done it before, where the Giants are as an organization, I think it's too risky at this point. So that's why I'm on Team McCarthy, as boring as that may sound.
Yeah. With that last question, that brings us to the end of another edition of Giants Collective. As always, we appreciate you watching. If you haven't done so, please hit the thumbs up. It helps the stream. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. We'd love you to be aboard because, like I said, we're going to have a lot to talk about in this offseason. You can check us out on TikTok and Instagram. You can check us out wherever you get your podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. And if you listen on Apple, leave a 5-star review. That helps the show out as well. Big shout out to our sponsors, Sleeper and SeatGeek. So with that said, for Adriana, Anthony, and Entertainah, your boy, the Bad Data is let's about to go crash and just pass out. And we'll see you. And by the way, happy and healthy New Year to everybody. Did not mention that. So we will see you in 2026.
Be safe.
Hopefully a better year for the Giants.
It'll be worse. Well, we say that.
I don't say it.
You never
I said
know.
that last year.
That's true. All right, have a good one, everybody. We out. Peace.